Hey, what's up, listener? Thank you for pressing play. This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, Disney and Sony break up in public, leaving the future of the Spider-Man franchise up in the air. A new Matrix movie is announced, and Kevin Smith is bringing a new He-Man animated series to Netflix.
Wowie zowie!
Plus, we got another Patreon-sponsored retro movie review as we discuss the cult fantasy classic Willow from 1988.
Matt Monaghan!
All that and a whole bunch more in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for August 22nd, 2019.
Hey, what's up? It's Taylor Gray, the voice of Ezra Bridger on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast.
Check. Check one. All right. This is for all you fans out there. Let's give it up. We jockin', we nerdin'. We funny, disturbing. We jockin', we nerdin'. We spoiler alert. Oh yeah. We jockin', we nerdin'. We funny, disturbing. Oh yeah. We jockin', we nerdin'. We spoiler alert. You know what's up. Jockin'.
That's right, listener. We're jocking, we're nerding. What's up? Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we give you. It's not that point yet, Anthony.
Damn it.
I have to explain what the Jock and Nerd podcast is, and it's where we give you comic book and superhero TV movie news, reviews, and whatever we choose. Cue it. Jock and Nerd.
Boing.
That's the boing. My name is Imran.
My name is Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And over there in the corner is a dude that literally has to look up to Warwick Davis. It's everyone's favorite podcasting puppet. It's Rug Boy. What's up, Rugs?
I need to find Allura Donna.
Dada. Rugs,
Matt Monaghan!
you were in
Matt Monaghan, where you going?
Rugs lost the baby. Rugs, you were supposed to get that baby to safety.
But Matt Monaghan!
Every time you hear Matt Mardigan or anybody's name, you have to drink.
Oh my God.
That's the best game.
Bev Morda. Listen, we'll get to Willow, but before we get to Willow,
No one wants to get to Willow.
nobody wants to get to Willow, but we are going to get there. But, oh shit. What a crazy week. I'm not even playing the bumper music here. We have to dive in to the huge news that made nerds everywhere lose their shit. It is the fact that for the past 4 years, Disney and Sony have been in a lovely, blissful marriage, sharing custody of one Spider-Man.
Right.
Earlier this week, Spider-Man's mommy and daddy had a big fight and broke up. Oh, shit. Getting a divorce, leaving us essentially with Spider-Man no longer in the MCU. Oh, shit. And Kevin Feige no longer involved in anything Spider-Man. Now, before we dig in, this is going to be like a therapy podcast for me because this messed me up a little.
Yeah, settle in, folks.
Settle in. It's going to be quite a ride. We need to briefly explain the backstory. Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man and 900 characters. About 2014, 2015, Sony and Disney had come to an unprecedented agreement.
Wait. Before you got to provide context.
Yes.
Sony was planning on making their own Spider-Verse.
Correct.
And that all fell apart with Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was a complete critical failure and not as successful in the box office. So at that point is when they decided to reach out to Marvel. It wasn't like they did this out of the blue. They were a little bit in the rut.
They were,
And they own the rights because Marvel sold them the rights when they were going bankrupt.
Well, the rights to the movie have been bouncing around since the 80s, going through Canon Films, Carol Cove Films. The deal was you had to make a movie every 5 years to keep the rights to Spider-Man. Finally, they end up at Sony in the late 90s. Giving them, starting with Sam Raimi's movie. And Sony now giving us essentially one of the best Spider-Man movies ever and one of the worst Spider-Man movies ever. So the deal at the time was, Kev, and meantime, the MCU is starting. It's 2014, 2015. It's firmly planted. They're growing. Sony said to Disney, we will lend you Spider-Man to use. And at the time, it was just Captain America Civil War. later amended to Avengers Infinity War Endgame. We will let you use Spider-Man in your movies. You guys can keep all the money and the profit from those movies. In return, we will hire your creative services, Kevin Feige, and your production team, and Marvel Studios will make standalone Spider-Man movies that Sony will pay for. Marvel gets 5% of first dollar gross on the standalone Spider-Man movies. Now, that's important. It's 5...
And all the merchandising.
Well, in 2011, Sony, hurting for money, sold back the merchandise rights to Marvel, and they regret that. So Disney, on the one hand, has all the merchandising rights, is made... the movies that Spider-Man have been in have made billions of dollars for Marvel.
Right.
But at the same time, they have given Sony, in Far From Home, their first $1 billion Spider-Man movie, and now Far From Home just edged Skyfall to be Sony's highest grossing movie of all time.
Let me provide
But Marvel's not putting up any money either.
No, they're not.
They're just raking in the profits. You know, they're having Sony pay them to make the movie, and they're getting 5% and the merchandising. So it's a pretty sweet deal for Marvel.
It's a nice deal for Marvel, for sure. There's a little more context to this, though. So when Marvel made this deal or Sony made this deal, Marvel was rolling pretty hard.
Yeah.
But they aren't what they are now. So they've used Spider-Man to even propel them from, before he went in before the Civil War was Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Movies that were okay.
Yeah.
Like but they weren't in the stratosphere they are now. So they've used Spider-Man to kind of propel them a little further. But in this time that's this partnership was happening, something big happened for Sony.
Yep.
Which is they made Venom. Venom, although critically not the greatest movie, made a lot of money.
Yeah.
That made Sony a little bit more confident. Also, Into the Spider-Verse comes out, which is regarded as one of the best animated films of all time, as far as superhero films.
Wins the Oscar for Best Animated Movie.
Right.
But it wasn't a financial, juggernaut, though.
But it made money.
Yes.
And it was critically acclaimed. So you have the context here is now you have two movies that Sony has now produced in the with Spider-Man characters
successfully,
that are successful. So both companies are now coming to the table with this confidence.
Okay,
right?
So here's the deal. Remember previously there was a rumor that if Far From Home made $1 billion, it would stay with Marvel for a third movie. But I guess that wasn't the case. There wasn't anything in place. Basically, originally the deal was for Tom Holland for 5 movies. This was the deal. He has done all those 5 movies. So it's time to renegotiate. This is a business move. How it got so public is crazy.
I'll explain why it got public.
So Disney and Sony meet saying, what are we going to do? Disney's like, look, they actually, in this article from Hollywood, a reporter, I think, has the most accurate information. They were looking for a 30% stake. A lot of people are saying 50%, but maybe it's somewhere between 30 to 50%.
More than 5.
More than 5. But Disney was also like, we will 50% fund the movie with you, but we made you $1 billion. We want 30%. Sony, in response, doesn't counter. And it essentially says, listen, Kevin Feige, thanks for setting up this layup. Thanks for setting up the ball, but we think we can take it from here. Goodbye, essentially removing Spider-Man from the MCU for right now.
Well, let me. There's a little bit more to that, though. Disney did ask for more. Their mindset is Spider-Man hasn't been awesome like this until we came back with you, right?
Right.
Sony obviously has the cachet of Venom and now Into the Spider-Verse, but they also countered with, and they came out with this after Disney first. The story came out, I think, from Disney's side. They came out with, "Hey, Kevin Feige's too busy now for us.
No,
he's got
this was Sony laying the blame at Kevin Feige's
feet. But they're saying Kevin Feige has got all these projects. He just got the X-Men. He just got the Fantastic Four back. He's not going to focus on us anymore."
Yeah, which is a good point.
If I can look into this a little bit.
Yes.
This is what I think happened in the meeting. Disney came in, said they want 30%, that they're going to co-finance, and Sony was like, oh, why the fuck am I going to give you this money? This is crazy. Well, he's like, well, it doesn't really behoove us to do this unless we're making some money, and we got Kevin Feige, he's busy, and we can't afford to put him on these movies if we're not making this 30%.
Right.
So that Sony was basically kicking that out there to people, is that was their argument for asking for the $30 million.
Kevin Feige's time has become a lot more valuable.
Right.
I would also add on, I think, Marvel's, you're absolutely right. I think they're like, dude, why are we loaning our best creative guy here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're only making 5%. So I think they did swing their dick and was like 50%, 30%, whatever the fucking number is.
Right.
Sony countered, we're like, nah, like, we're confident now. We want to include Venom. We want to do a bunch of things. We can build our own Spider-Verse now. And they were like, no, we won't counter. We're going to stick at this 5%. I don't think they thought that Disney would release this, because I think what they thought is Disney has invested this amount of time into creating this MCU with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It would look really bad, or it would really fuck things up if Disney pulled Spider-Man from the MCU. But Disney was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to negotiate this now publicly, and we're going to put the blame on Sony. So now you see all these petitions like boycott Sony, boycott Sony.
That's
hilarious. Because
hilarious.
Disney did this on purpose.
So
they released it.
Disney's in the power position in the negotiation. All right.
Exactly.
So number one, they came in, they demanded more money. They also said they justified their reasoning for asking for more money. It's like, look, you have an asset that we really need, which is Kevin Feige. We don't want to lend him to you unless you're willing to pay.
Yep.
Sony scoffs at that, and then they go public and saying, well, look, Sony fucked you out of Spider-Man in the MCU.
Sony
So
looks
go
like the bad
get
guy.
him. And it was totally engineered by Disney.
Absolutely.
And because Sony is punching up here.
Yeah.
They're the weaker, company.
Yep.
They really need Spider-Man. This is one of their only flagships in their whole movie brands and their franchises. So, Disney's the one basically laying down the hammer.
But who needs Spider-Man more at this point? Because Kevin Feige has now put Spider-Man in the position to be the new Iron Man, to be so entrenched in the MCU.
It would really disturb their continuity. I think they could survive from it.
They would survive. And I agree.
I think Marvel would survive from it. I think there's no press. From what I read, John Watts isn't necessarily signed on for anymore.
I don't think John Watts is a factor.
No.
I think that he's just another director that does. He didn't do anything that was special to me in these movies. He just did like every other movie, like that Marvel does.
Well, more what I'm getting at is that there's no, just because it's been good so far, doesn't mean that like Sony, this is the cue that Sony's learned from their mistakes and they're like, yeah, we can continue that. There's no precedent for Sony being able to continue this on their own.
Absolutely not. As far as John Watts, he's done with his 2-picture deal after Far From Home. So he could be, if this deal falls flat, he could easily be snapped up by Disney to do an MCU movie. Tom Holland
I think the key rise of Tom Holland and the rest of the cast.
Tom Holland has an option for one more movie. His contract is done, but he has the option to do one more. They were reporting that they were working on 2.
Well, I know Sony would love to have him interact with what's the fucking Venom's guy's name?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Like that's one of Sony's play. The other play here is Sony maybe has a lot more confidence now, maybe false confidence. That Morbius movie is going to happen.
Has Sony gotten their shit together enough?
Sony might think they have their shit together.
So look, I first of all, let's go back. I agree with you, Anthony. I think Disney leaked this because look at what
they totally did.
Look at what happened. This thing comes out. Everyone goes, "Fuck you, Sony." Not even thinking about the other side. Sony has to release a thing saying they own the character. Yeah, they own the character. They're saying it was actually Disney. Kevin Feige's too busy. Sony's stock drops a little bit that day. Now so Disney's putting the screws on them.
Yeah.
And Sony's got some balls to hold their position. In the long run, I really do think something is going to be worked out. There's too much at stake. It's all about money. There's too much money on the table right now.
I think
it's going to be a deal.
I think this is all going to be this is like James Gunn, remember?
Yep.
I think it'll be worked out eventually because there's too much money involved for both companies to not, and PR, and just like it would stink creatively if, regardless of how you feel about how Spider-Man's been portrayed by Marvel, the story is clearly not over. It would stink to have that to end right now.
It's a no-win situation if you're Sony, because there's going to be the stench of this on the next movie.
Yep.
No matter how good the movie is, it could be a fucking great movie. Now, my personal opinion about the Marvel Universe, MCU, Spider-Man, obviously, I think that they could do a lot better, and Sony can do a lot better, or anybody could do a lot better than what they've done. I think the fact that they've pulled the wool over people's eyes and made people love this Spider-Man just because of the actor that's involved.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that Spider-Man has lost a lot being in the MCU. He's been diminished in so many ways. So if they could somehow bring that back, it still wouldn't work because people are going to be thinking about how they were robbed of something in the MCU. So it's like a no-win situation. Do I think that they can make a better Spider-Man movie? Absolutely. Than Marvel, because what they're doing in Marvel in the MCU is they're trying to fit Spider-Man into the MCU as this integral piece.
Right.
And they're linking him into Tony Stark. They're making him do this and do that. And all of this stuff is related to stuff that's outside of Spider-Man. So it's like not Peter Parker centric. It's not his rogues gallery. It's not any of that stuff. We just got J. Jonah Jameson teased.
That's the thing, dude. The cliffhanger bombshells, the way they set up the end of Far From Home, it would be such a shame if there was no resolution. It'd be fucking
actually,
crazy.
That cliffhanger actually kind of works in Sony's favor because that can be just a standalone Spider-Man story.
Mm-hmm.
So that would work if Sony wanted to just do this. The thing that's for me would be a shame. There's no winner in this for the fans, especially are the worst.
Yep.
But the thing that's a shame would be a shame for me is if this ends up being a breakup. Sure, Sony can make better Spider-Man films. I agree that there could be better Spider-Man films, but to not have the option of Spider-Man appearing in other MCU films and not interacting with the Marvel characters that have been in the comics for years is a shame.
Yeah, no one's going to be able to get over that.
Right. And anecdotally, again, when I watched Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War, my theater every time Spider-Man came on was going nuts. When Civil War, when he comes in, Infinity War, when he dies, Endgame, when he reappears, the crowd loves Spider-Man. The people like Spider-Man with these other characters. Now, the solo films could use work, but when he's with the other characters in these ensemble films, people go nuts.
I mean, I'm so torn.
It's like you have... the whole play set and you have one figure missing.
Right.
So it's just like you're going to feel a loss that he's not in the MCU.
I mean, and literally it would be the one character Marvel does not get back.
The thing is this has always been kind of kind of an arranged marriage.
Yeah, we knew this was going to come to a
this
renegotiation
was always,
point.
Because
this is
remember
inevitable.
Coming up to this, there would always be these things like, oh yeah, like Venom could cross over with Spider-Man, and then they'd interview Feige and be like, no, Venom's not in this universe. Like, Sony on its own still has aspirations to make its own Spider-Verse.
Oh, they're going to make it.
But the thing is like, they want to make their own films. Kevin Feige can't produce all the Spider-Verse films.
Yeah.
He can't produce Venom, and like he's got his own universe, like X-Men, all that stuff. So this was always going to come to a head eventually is, hey, we want to do our own thing. We would love to have you a part of MCU. And Kevin Feige and MCU and Disney being like, this is only one guy. He's not making fucking Venom and Morbius films. God damn it. We don't care about that.
Well, they're saturating the market with Spider-Man stuff now.
They are a little bit, which is sad to see.
They're overdoing it, and it's going to blow up in their face.
It is one guy, but it's the one guy who made him the most
this
money.
was always going to come to a head, though, eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what I think that this posturing is going to boil down to. All right? There's either going to be a counter offer and a deal made,
okay,
or this is the big long play. This is the Hail Mary pass that Marvel buys back Spider-Man,
or they buy
for like
Sony.
$1 billion. They give him like $6 billion.
The thing is, like, they've made Spider-Man more. Like, if that was the case, they've made Spider-Man more expensive to buy back.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now he becomes.
But if Sony thinks they can't make their own Spider-Man movie, people are going to boycott it.
Right.
What are they going to do with it? That 5 years is going to expand, and then they're going to lose it anyway. They might as well get some money for it.
I think the other thing, though, is are we kind of overlooking the casual fan? Does the casual fan know? Would they know that this happened?
No, but the Twitterverse knows,
true.
and that pressure alone is what got James Gunn fired.
That's true.
And all that stuff. So I think that they're counting. Marvel is doing some Machiavellian bullshit right now. They're trying to get Spider-Man back.
Right.
And they're going to throw an offer to Sony. They're going to be like, here's $6 billion. Give us Spider-Man back. And, you know, you guys walk away with $6 billion. And you're never going to get good faith on the fans ever again if you fucking.
But is it just Spider-Man or the 900 characters you buy
all
back?
of it.
You'd have to do the whole catalog.
Spider-Man's not worth alone $6 billion. You get all the characters. Maybe.
It's so crazy how the tables have turned when the deal started. Sony needed Disney to help them, and now
Venom really helped them. It emboldened them.
And Feige did consult on that, didn't get a producer's credit, didn't want it, but now Disney needs Sony to play ball.
Well, no one in the MCU is looking at that Venom film like, yeah, we want to tie that in.
Right.
No one they don't want that.
And the fact that this, like, normally these negotiations, nobody would have known that this was going on. The fact that it's so public, I think, is brilliant. Let's not forget who the big evil corporate overlord is here. Disney's hands are not clean.
No, they're definitely the bully in this situation.
They're definitely the bully. You don't get that big by playing clean, people. Like
they're the bully, but Sony is also the guy that was like, got the girl back, and they're like, fuck you, we're feeling good about this again. Like, they were down in the dumps, like the complete jock loser that like was striking out, like the college jock that went back to high school, and they're like, dude, you're too old to be here. And now the jock is like got like a college girl, and he's like, I'm dating this hot girl again. Let's see what happens. Like, come on, what's going on here?
He's getting a little too proud.
They're both like in this position of they don't want to give an inch.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a
Sony's
crazy stalemate.
Have to fold. Well, if Sony stands their ground and makes a movie, it has to be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
they better call me up and like I'll shoot them straight.
I mean, I've been going back and forth all week. On the one hand, this. On the one hand, this, and because there's sides to both arguments. But you guys are right. If the deal falls flat, it's lose for everyone.
Absolutely.
Sony hurts more than Disney. The fans hurt the most.
Fans hurt the most.
The end game is that if Sony puts out a Spider-Man movie and loses money on it, right?
Yeah.
And you know the fan backlash is so big, they're going to lose the rights because then they have to make another movie, and then they're not going to be willing to risk putting the money out there to make this movie because it costs $200 million to make a good Spider-Man movie.
I'm willing to bet if Sony is doing this on their own, it ends up happening. You're going to see Venom in that movie.
Shit,
I mean, definitely
right away.
On the one hand, would I like to see
you might see that fucking who's the Jared Leto's Morbius? You might see him in the movie.
Oh, absolutely, and because they're planning on they had the Silver and Black movie. They were planning on the Sinister Six,
and you'll get a Miles Morales. You'll get everything right away.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things that they are doing because Lord and Miller have earlier this month. Lord and Miller discussed that they are working on several live-action Spider-Man series for television. They didn't say what and they didn't say where, but they are actively working on live-action Spider-Man shit. So on the one hand, would I like to see Sony recast with an adult Spider-Man and just start him like he's older, he just graduated college, and you don't have to be beholden to the overhead of Tony Stark and all these things, and you actually have agency? I would love that.
I don't see them doing a Spider-Man starring series.
They're going to use him in other things.
I think they'll use the other characters.
That would be the wrong way to use the Spider-Man if you get it back. I would think.
Now, what is the MCU's strategy if they lose Spider-Man for the time being?
I think MCU just continues chugging along, and they're like, well, we were lending out our most creative guy, and we were only getting 5% back. Fuck it. And we got the X-Men back. We got Fantastic Four. We'll be fine.
But this could be their first fuck up. This could possibly prove that the MCU Disney isn't infallible because of the way they set him up to be so connected to Iron Man, to be the next Iron Man. If they don't come to an agreement, this could be Disney's.
That's a stupid play. That's a
big fuck up right there.
That shows a lot of hubris.
Right? That is some bullying. That is extreme bullying.
I mean, at this point, Disney is pretty failing, as the kids would say. They're failing themselves right now.
Well, but
they think they can. I mean, just evidenced by that Phase 4 release, which Rug Boy, when we talked about it off air, was like, this has to be a joke. Like, literally, their hubris is so big that they can go with a Phase 4 release right now, which is like Shang-Chi, Jane Foster, Thor, and like Doctor Strange, and they're like feeling good about this. Like, we killed it out there.
A Loki show. However, from the Disney point of view, leading up D23, this is going to be fucking interesting this weekend because Spider-Man is on all the banners at D23. If you think about it, Disney is having a really horrible, shitty week leading up to D23, starting with, them admitting the Fox movies tanked. We took a little hit. The public optics is that Disney has lost Spider-Man in the MCU. And what's probably more important to them than all of this, they are dealing with a whistleblower out there that has accused them of falsifying revenue. There's a whistleblower saying Disney increases their money. They lie about how much they make. In the SEC is definitely going to want to check into that. Ooh. I would think that's a little bit higher priority than figuring out Spider-Man for Disney. That would be
great if that. I was hearing a lot of reports that theaters were empty for Captain Marvel, and they were posting record numbers of ticket sales.
That's true. Also, their attendance to Galaxy's Edge is hurting a little bit. Apparently, like the parks are kind of empty. Like they're struggling. Like for Disney, this is alarming. So they've not had the best week, and this is helping. What do you think the optics are right now? I still feel like because people are like,
I feel like that people don't know that they're the bully in the situation.
They don't fucking storm Sony. That's dumb.
I think you have the fact that there's a petition to storm Sony is proof that people on Twitter, they don't fucking know shit. They're fucking stupid, half of them.
But Disney has had everyone drink the fucking Kool-Aid, and
there's a lot of Kool-Aid drinking going on.
They are evil geniuses at PR. The PR is looking way better for worse for Sony.
I don't think the optics on Disney don't look for me don't.
No,
look bad
you think
at all.
people?
No.
Yeah, I think they've made the optics look bad on Sony and all that other stuff you mentioned.
Yeah.
If you didn't mention it, I'd have had no idea. And I feel like I'm pretty connected to knowing what's going on in the movie industry, and I had no idea any of the stuff you were talking about.
What happens is when you do something like this, right?
Yeah.
Like Disney's so fucking Machiavellian. Like they release the shit first, get the rage going.
Yeah.
Now everyone's fucking pissed at Sony. And then, like, maybe a few days later, like, there's things released by Sony or whatever about what's really going on with the deal. And then it's kind of more sympathetic to Sony, but people have already dug in their heels.
Yeah.
They're not going to turn around.
Yeah.
They were first.
Disney was first, and it was later.
Like the Sony stuff that came out, like, we included that in the conversation, but people already, the rage culture that is today is already running out and setting up protests.
Dude, and it happened
and boycotting Sony.
It happened so quickly. They put a statement out later that day trying to spin it, back to Disney.
Disney was playing chess already.
Yeah.
While Sony was playing checkers.
And I mean, these talks have been going on for a long time. Like you said, this was inevitable. It's strictly business. You got to follow the money. And you always got to follow the money.
Both sides are wrong and they're right. Both sides.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely are entitled to what they're asking for, and they're also both being stubborn and pig-headed.
Sony can make whatever Spider-Man movie they want, really. They can do whatever they want.
And Disney's like, dude, we've only made 5% and we're lending out our best creative hand. And in Disney's mind, they're like, Spider-Man was in the dumps before we got here.
Yeah, look, we made you $1 billion. Is what they're yes.
Okay. What if the fact that Spider-Man is included in all these other movies actually helped all of those other movies and they made money from those?
That's a possibility. It's definitely a factor.
I think Civil War, a lot of people were like running to see that because they were going to see the new Spider-Man.
Fuck yeah. That was a huge part.
I think Marvel's also probably like that boosted us for sure, but now all these other characters that people went and ran to see Spider-Man for, these people love all these other characters.
Well, they built the universe.
They've got the rub from Spider-Man
They
as well.
built the universe on Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, and that is the through line. That is what makes all the decisions. So Spider-Man's really kind of like a side ensemble character in the MCU at this point. And like you said, Ruggs, they've used Miles Morales' shit and mixed it in with him. And
I have another thing that I just thought of.
Yes,
maybe. Because you guys have talked about especially how they've always kind of made Spider-Man Tony's sidekick.
Yep.
So he's kind of like the next Tony, but not necessarily like Tony's better, right?
Right.
Maybe that was strategic in the sense that if this were ever to come to a head, they were like, yeah, like he was popular, but he's not even as cool as Iron Man. Like he always looked up to Iron Man. Like they kind of sidelined the character a little bit, so he would not be as popular as he could be.
I mean, in the comic books, right? Everybody knows that Spider-Man is the flagship,
right?
Iron Man. Though I collected Iron Man and thought he was cool, I was in the minority of people that liked. I was following Iron Man in the comics, and he had a TV show that was really weird, where he had a big mullet, and in the 90s, and it was never as popular as the Spider-Man show.
Yep.
So even his animated series only lasted like a season or two. So, it's like the fact that Iron Man is the flagship character of the MCU and Spider-Man is like second or third or fourth banana.
Yeah.
That's insulting in a lot of ways. Like Peter Parker and Spider-Man, they have the history, they have all of these accolades, and Marvel did this out of need. They needed to use Tony because they didn't have Spider-Man.
Right. But I'm just thinking like evil plan.
Yeah.
If this ever were to come to a head, they were like, well, we didn't make him all that popular, or we didn't make him that strong in this universe.
Yeah.
It was done on purpose.
That
absolutely. They diminished the importance of Spider-Man.
And on both sides, the MCU can easily continue without Spider-Man. No problem the way they have it set up. And Spider-Man on Sony's side he has so many characters and villains, you could easily have his own universe continue on Sony's side. The question then is, what is the quality going to be?
Right.
And, they, like I said, they've made the best and worst.
For Disney,
movie.
We have this storyline and we're not going to see it through. For Sony, it's, can you really do it on your own? Like those are the questions on both sides.
I think that it's easy to do on your own. It really is. I just think that they've been so desperate to try. Like, okay, so they had Sam Raimi. He was doing okay.
He did good. He did really
all right. Spider-Man 2 shows you that he could actually do a really great Spider-Man movie. He was very beholden to the comics and the feel of the comics and all that stuff. Then Marvel started doing this MCU thing, and Sony was like, let's do an MCU. We're going to do Sinister Six. We're going to introduce like this whole thing and maybe do all the Spider characters and all this other stuff, like get Silk in there, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't work out. They blew it on that. They failed miserably on trying to build that universe. Because what happened is the minute they put Spider-Man's parents in there and all this other bullshit, people are like, no, we don't want to know about fuck up right there.
Yeah. I got to play that again because that's great.
Yeah. So maybe they learned their lesson. Maybe like we should just stick to what Spider-Man is. They bought Insomniac Games, who made the best Spider-Man game ever.
Yes.
They could easily extrapolate. Now that they own it, they can extrapolate that story and make it into a movie.
So Sony is buying video game developers now, and this is also to counter Microsoft, who is going around buying video game developers as well. Sony announced their purchase of Insomniac, which is crazy. And they are re-releasing Far From Home for Labor Day with 4 additional minutes of footage.
Geek Boner.
And I already talked about Lord and Miller developing live-action Spider-Man. So there is going to be a lot of Spider-Man movies and TV coming. It may be too much.
This is what I would do.
It's going to get oversaturated.
If I was Sony,
yeah,
I would say I would give the finger to Marvel.
Yeah.
All right. I would give Tom Holland like a ridiculous amount of money that he can't say no to come into the movie. Right? So you got Tom Holland, you got your Spider-Man, the people that everybody likes. Most people who don't go on Twitter won't know the difference, right? So they're going to go see the Spider-Man movie. You use it. You could do a story about like collapsing realities like you did Into the Spider-Verse where they're all different Spider-Men.
Yeah.
You can bring in Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, use all that nostalgia and then collapse the reality. So all of a sudden the Avengers are gone and only the reality is like this amalgam of all the old so you have J. Jonah Jameson from the original Spider-Man movie.
You still got J.K. Simmons.
You got J.K. Simmons. You got maybe aspects of the Amazing Spider-Man movie or something like that. And then you collapse all the realities, and then you keep going with Tom Holland. And there
Here's
you go.
the problem with the Tom Holland. Well, first of all, how much would it confuse people if you recast fucking Spider-Man again.
Recasting would be the worst
That
possible
would be the worst.
situation.
They could dig in and give Tom Holland. He's not going to say no to money.
Well, in this article, it says some fans have already noticed that Tom Holland appears to have unfollowed Sony on Instagram.
Oh, shit.
He's probably going to want to be loyal to Marvel Studios.
I don't know if he'd say no to money. He's also, 21 years old?
Yeah.
I mean, I was an idiot when I was 21.
If they offer him a shitload of money, he'll take it.
But
I'm still an idiot, actually.
if they don't use him, you can't really recast Tom Holland in the MCU, can you?
Recasting would be the worst thing that Sony could do.
At this point, you got to go with the Tom Holland. Director can be whoever. But
Director doesn't matter as much. You got to have Tom Holland.
He can quit. He can retire for the rest. You can get it. They could pay if he paid him something like $15 million or $20 million. He would do it.
Also,
there's no way he's going to say no to that.
Jeremy Renner
He's set for
also
life.
calling out Sony, give Spider-Man back, blah, blah, blah. And in a case of the pot calling the kettle black, Stan Lee's daughter, JC Lee, sides with Sony.
Oh, shit.
Her quote is...
I don't care about her opinion at all.
Exactly. But here, look what she says. She goes, when my father died, no one from Marvel or Disney reached out to me. She said, in the end, no one could have treated my father worse than Marvel and Disney's executive. Oh, no one? Really? Really? No one?
Oh,
JC Lee? From what I fucking heard about what you've done? So
she's got to clear up her name before she has comments on how people treated her father.
Absolutely. And they've, MCU has done tributes to Stan Lee.
They probably haven't been great to him.
No,
I mean,
no,
but especially in the past, before all these movies came out. But the daughter, get the fuck out of here.
The daughter is the worst piece of shit you're gonna find.
Yeah.
So holy shit, it's just crazy, and the fact that it's so public is crazy. This is gonna be interesting to watch.
How do you feel about this, Imran? I want to get your emotional feeling.
I was so all over the place because. While, yes, in the beginning, I did not want a Disney-fied Spider-Man. This is a Spider-Man that they've said will never punch a motherfucker in a movie. And they did Disney-fy him, but throughout the movies, it's broken me down, and I've really gotten to enjoy Tom Holland as Peter Parker. At the same time, I would love to see him grow up as an adult and have self-contained stories and have movies that are actually about fucking Spider-Man and his villains without all the supporting cast kind of helping him out where he can't call Happy Hogan. But I don't understand how you just not mention each other if this breaks apart. On the other hand, Kevin Feige really knows the character. Sony's track record is iffy. On the other hand...
Jesus Christ, how many on the other hands do you got
I have
going?
several hands like the god Ganesh in the Hindu culture or the Shiva. Into the Spider-Verse is an amazing accomplishment. And they have made my favorite Spider-Man movie. And fuck, dude. I don't know. I ultimately hope that they find some sense and find some kind of compromise.
Into the Spider-Verse, it called back stuff that was in the regular Spider-Man series.
I would also say Into the Spider-Verse, although I really enjoyed it and I think it's a good accomplishment, it is way different directing real people rather than animating someone the way you want them to be animated.
Yeah. And getting...
Well, story is the most important thing, the way it's written, all right? And then the way it's directed, action-wise, the fact that it's unique and just I don't know. I kind of still love Sam Raimi's version of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Sam Raimi's had the best version.
The more I think about it, the more
out
I
of
love
what we've seen. I agree.
I love the music. I love the fact that it's just different in the way it is. It doesn't seem like a regular Marvel movie. It seems like its own thing. That scene where Dr. Octopus is in the lab after they're trying to take the arms off and he attacks everybody. That's fucking great.
That's horror. I mean, he's calling upon his horror tropes.
That's Sam Raimi, Evil Dead stuff. Yeah. And even stuff where the moment at the end where he's defeated and he's going to sacrifice and he sees that he's Peter and he goes, "Oh, Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy." There's so much heart and it's so organic, and that's an amazing movie.
I still regard Spider-Man 2 as one of the best superhero films of all time.
I like it better than any other Spider-Man movie.
In my opinion, it's the best one.
Yeah. It's just perfectly paced.
And Spider-Man 1 is for me the number one and number two stuff.
The first two movies still hold up.
So
They're
Sony
great.
has done it, and the thing is, they've done it before that Marvel figured out the formula too. They did it before Marvel. I think Marvel was very influenced by the Raimi movies in how to handle the thing. The only thing that the Raimi movies didn't do well was handle Spider-Man being quippy.
Right.
Like that was very forced. And I think that Amazing Spider-Man did it better.
And the only ones to get to a third fucking Spider-Man movie. I think it's funny you can't get to that third movie.
But then they abandoned that in the Homecoming movies.
Yeah.
He doesn't really quip. He's not really like a wise ass. He's just kind of like, what do I do, computer?
Yes.
You know, and computer, what do I do? And the computer does all the comedy.
I mean, even Far From Home, he's constantly just like trying to catch up. He's always freaking out the whole movie.
Yeah.
There's no room for him to be quippy or confident. He's just like, my God.
Yeah.
Like the whole time.
I like the dichotomy, and it's not there.
It's a Disneyfied, but what they did made sense within the MCU and what they knew was going to happen with these negotiations. Do I like it? It's fun. I'm glad I have it. I mean, I did enjoy Far From Home, but
the argument is that, well, you know, we need to get kids to see themselves in Peter Parker. But I'm like, but I did, and I was a kid, and I went and I loved Peter Parker.
Yeah, and I related to, as a kid, 12, 13-year-old, I related to the young adult, college-going, single Peter Parker. I never read the fucking teenage Peter Parker. I love the young 20s Peter Parker, and even at that age, it was fine. I didn't need to be like talked down to. Here's the other thing: if everyone's upset, you can. If you're upset about Spider-Man, just go read the comic books. That's always going to be there.
Yeah,
they'll always
the
satisfy.
old comics are always there.
Go get the old runs.
That is not the solution.
I think that's the solution. If you're really upset, but everyone's just got to calm the fuck down.
Now, viscerally, do you have an emotional reaction to this, Anthony?
No, yeah, for sure. My reaction was, I want him in the MCU. So even though I fully acknowledge that Disney is being a bully, whatever it takes to get him in the MCU. Because my thing is two things. One, there's a story going on that Kevin Feige clearly had a hand in that's not going to get finished by him if this breakup occurs. Also, like you mentioned, you have all the toys in the place set except the one toy that everyone likes to have.
It's annoying not to have
That's annoying.
The one missing piece. I will say that the prospect of once Lord and Miller were like, we are working on these live action TV shows. So the prospect of Sony really putting Spider-Man everywhere was kind of exciting. Like, could we have a live action actual Spider-Man TV show with Spider-Man in it? Be fucking crazy. But I don't know. I'm so conflicted. I want them to get along. You know me. I want everyone to get along. I want them to get along again. Mommy and Daddy need to make up.
I think it'll work itself out.
If Marvel, look, this is my quandary, is that I'm never going, as long as Marvel's involved and already has Spider-Man in this fashion, they're never going to really do a Spider-Man the way that he deserves to be done.
Right. That's true.
All right. So you're never going to get the true Spider. You're always going to get a compromised Spider-Man. The only way you're going to get the real deal Spider-Man is if it's not interwoven into this thing. But you will never get Spider-Man with the MCU characters.
I think another thing Sony may be thinking of, and that would bolster them and give them confidence, is Sony's kind of preventing the Disney monopoly. I think if they keep Spider-Man and there's competition, there's not one company that owns Fox and everything. It may force both sides to step up their game. And it may make better pictures for the fans ultimately because of they're blocking the monopoly of characters.
Maybe, I don't know. It's
a free market thing, that's what happens. Listener, join our Facebook group. There's amazing
that was a long
threads,
discussion.
And I know
that was a long therapy session.
I needed that fucking therapy session because this was my initial reaction.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
I was like, what the fuck? But listener, join our Facebook group, Jock and Nerd Nation. There's great threads and discussions going on there right now. It's a closed group just for our listeners, and we'd love to have you. Listener, believe it or not, there was other shit that happened this week. Real quick, come over, a couple other headlines, and we'll wrap up the news. The same day all this shit is going down, Warner Brother announces Matrix 4 in the works with Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Lana Wachowski.
Yeah, they went through a sex change.
Well, now, actually, The Matrix came out exactly 20 years ago this year. Mm-hmm. Back then, they were the Wachowski brothers.
Right.
They're now the Wachowski sisters, Lana and Lily.
Right.
And Lana is coming back to... Now, this is exciting news. But where's the story? No word about Lawrence Fishburne or Morpheus. What do you do? I kind of want them to just undo the last 2 movies and fucking reset it back after the first movie.
I have no idea where you go
with this.
I don't know where you go with it. All I know is the last 2 movies weren't great at all.
Yeah.
Matrix #1 is an all-timer as far as pop culture. The thing is that Keanu Reeves, other than when The Matrix came out, has never been hotter.
We are in the Keanu-sance.
We're in the Keanu-sance. That's very good. So if you're going to do this is the time. So
absolutely.
We'll see what Keanu's hot.
What could this story possibly be?
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
I want them.
The last that we left,
the Matrix was done, right? It was destroyed. It was over.
Trinity was dead.
Yeah.
Right?
Neo and Agent What's-His-Face fought in the air like Superman.
And then Neo gave himself into the Matrix where he brought peace between man and machine.
And everyone was just living in the caves in Zion or whatever, right?
Right.
So there's no more Matrix.
So there'd have to be a new Matrix.
No,
right?
there's man and machine, they work together instead of fighting each other.
So then there's no reason for the machines to put the people into the Matrix.
Yeah, there's no reason for the Matrix anymore.
My favorite thing about the Matrix is that you're in this reality and you could do whatever you want because there is no spoon. That's what I want. I wanted them to go back and explore other situations in the reality of the fake reality in the Matrix. I didn't really care about
what would you do with the story at this point?
I don't know. That's the thing. And now he's older, so you have to deal with Neo does Neo? I don't know. I don't know what do you do?
Maybe he's tasked with creating a new Matrix, and he creates Trinity as like she's not real.
Oh, there's a note here. Variety has shared an update which claims that the script calls for a younger version of Morpheus to be cast, which obviously points to some time travel elements. Does he go back in time to something?
I got an idea.
Yeah.
To flip it on its head. You do it where Keanu's as old as he is.
Yeah.
You start off and the Matrix is back.
Yeah.
And you don't understand why.
Yeah.
And you have a new character. You have all these new characters that are like figuring out like, what the fuck we learned about as parent, like we learned about from our parents that this was not a thing. And now we wake up and we're in the Matrix. And then what you realize by the end of it is that Keanu is now the bad guy. And he redistributed the Matrix because he's like, this whole people and working together with the machines thing.
This is bullshit.
I realize now that the Matrix was always supposed to be what it was supposed to be. So you flip it on its head and you make Keanu the creator of the Matrix.
I think that would be kind of cool to see Keanu.
Yeah, he becomes the architect.
He becomes the architect. He's this old jaded guy that was like, yeah, we live together in harmony, and you know what? That fucking didn't work. And I created the Matrix. I know how to beat it, so I created a better version of it that no one can fucking beat.
And he's like a god in there.
And he's Mr. Smith, basically.
Wow. Look at Anthony. Pitch that to them.
The architect said that the Matrix has happened already like 5 or 6 times.
Okay, so that could easily be
because you got to flip. Like that's the thing that worked for Terminator 2, right?
Yep.
You flipped it.
Yep.
You made the bad guy the good guy.
Yep.
That's how you refresh a lot of things. Is you flip it.
That's a good point, and that was a huge...
You turn the thing... If you keep doing the same thing, it'll be fun for nostalgia, but that wears out, right? Look at Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Okay, Jurassic World, we got it.
Yeah.
And then the next one, we still keep going with that story. We're like, this is kind of played out. We don't want to hear this anymore. Like, let's do something different.
I mean, how do you take a sci-fi classic that was a breakthrough special effects that blew everyone's mind?
You look at what James Cameron did with T2 and Aliens, and you flip the things.
Where did they go wrong with the Matrix, the second one? What do you think was the thing that really fucking made everybody hate it?
I mean, I think they just focused too much on like the Agent Smith thing and the people living in the caves.
For me, it was just more of the same of the first one. Just like everything was elevated. Like, let's just do more of the Matrix, but add all these like superfluous stuff that no one cared about. For
me, I think that the end of the first Matrix, all right, was such a great ending.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Right? So he gets on the phone and he dials into everybody and says, look, I'm Neo.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we fucking want. This thing is fake. And let's all wake up and fucking fuck these robots up. And the next movie should have been
The Revolution.
Yeah,
The revolt.
and then there should have been a movie after that. Like they shouldn't have fucking just given it up and made peace with
I
the robots.
forgot about
They should
the
have fucking
phone
wiped them out.
portals. That was awesome.
I think the mistake too. Didn't they film both of those movies back to back?
Yeah, and it was many years later. Also,
Well, it was a couple years later, but I
Yeah.
think they filmed them back to back. So I think they were trying. They didn't have a full story.
Yeah.
and they were trying to stretch it across too. They weren't thinking about let's make the next film really awesome. They were like, okay, we have a franchise here. Let's stretch this out as much
Yeah,
as
and then
possible.
it's just
it
like-
seems superfluous. And after that's the ending of the first movie set up for, okay, everybody knows that this shit is fake. Everybody's going to be a superhero.
That would have been
and
awesome.
Be able to bend reality.
That's what I want to see.
And we're all going to fuck up these agents, and then we're all going to get free. And then when we get free, we're going to go to the machines and fuck them up in real life, and we're going to take back the Earth. And that kind of happened.
Yeah.
But it happened in the most boring ass way you could possibly.
Pretty much.
have.
And then you got a full out rave scene. I'm like, all right, we're doing this now. Okay. Dancing in the caves, whatever.
Hey, that's fun.
What? Yeah.
Dancing in caves is fun.
I bet that was a great EDM concert. It's like a concert Anthony went to. It was in the Matrix 3. Take the blue pill. It's a Molly. Don't worry. You'll be fine. Okay. And then the last piece of big news that some people will be excited for. I'm kind of excited. Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin announcing at PowersCon and on their podcast, Fat Man Beyond, that they are doing a He-Man Masters of the Universe show for Netflix, produced by Mattel, and it will be a follow-up to the original 80s animated classic, focused on the storylines that were left unresolved in the series finale. If you listen to that episode of Fat Man Beyond, it's pretty great. He talks about the writers he has and his love for it. And I didn't know that there was a Masters of the Universe convention, PowersCon.
There is.
Yeah, Motu. You into Motu? There's a huge convention, so it was a great place for them to announce it. Anthony, I know this is past your childhood. Too young for the He-Man?
Too young, yes.
When we did the Masters, what the fuck happened to Masters of the Universe? I went back and I watched some of the original He-Man. And I think Tchaikovsky made a good point in the Facebook group. Like, this is great. I love it. Bring it back. But if you look at the source material, it's not very good.
No,
Especially
that's the thing that bothers me the most about this.
Especially He-Man, which was literally made after the fact on a hunch, on a lie to sell He-Man toys as an afterthought.
Right.
It's not, but as a kid, it's the nostalgia. You loved it. Now, they have done a reboot in 2012, which was amazing. Animated reboot.
Yes.
If they do something like that, I think it'll be great. Ruggs, what do you think? Do you think Kevin Smith can deliver?
All right.
He's a huge He-Man fan, by the way.
Okay, whatever that means.
He knows everything about the character.
There's schools of thought about this. Okay, so when the initial He-Man came out, it came with a comic book, and the comic book was a very like Conan the Barbarian meets post-apocalyptic magical world type shit, like Star Wars type shit. And it was very dark, and it seemed very grim and very fucking ballsy. Right? Because this toy company came up with this shit. But then the cartoon came out, and it was very fucking flamboyant and goofy.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah.
It was not like the show that was, I mean, even though the animation was it was just like a goof.
It wasn't the box art that was on the toys, which were epic fantasy paintings.
Yeah. It was just like it was a very like, morally preachy show with very flamboyant characters, and it never met its potential.
There was always a lesson. You had to learn a lesson.
The idea was, okay, you're going to create this kind of like post-apocalyptic universe that is like kind of like where there's barbarians, but like future technology, all of this stuff. How does it work together? And like, how do we make it work together? And they're like, fuck it. We're just doing it. And we're going to make it all a joke. Because if you make everything a joke, it's easier, right? You don't have to explain shit. We just make it into a joke, and it's funny. Now, it's for kids, obviously, but, like there's shows that took things a little bit more seriously that we like Robotech and shit like that.
Robotech at the time was probably the most adult soap opera show I ever saw. But then the cartoons got better in the 90s also.
Yeah. So, the point is that I would like to see this He-Man that they should have made.
I think that's what Kevin Smith and company are going to give you. They're going to have Man-at-Arms.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Orko, I think you're wrong.
The people that grew up watching He-Man,
yes,
and they don't think like I do. I think I feel like I'm a very unique way of thinking. I think the general fan is going to want a silly version of He-Man.
You don't think they want a serious fantasy, lots of action?
No, because they did that and nobody watched it.
I know, and it was so good. And
it was really good.
So here, let me talk about the creative team. Did you watch Castlevania on Netflix, Ruggs?
Yes.
Was the animation good?
The animation's fine. It's very Japanese animation looking.
Powerhouse Animation will be doing the animation.
Yeah. They're capable of doing very dark, gory shit, but I don't know if they're going to do that for He-Man. I mean, I really don't think. I think that Kevin Smith is going to be really dialed into the fandom, and he's going to try and do something that matches up along the lines of fandom. I don't know if people want a gory He-Man.
Well, I mean, that's why he announced it at PowersCon. But
I mean, I would love it.
Yeah. Well, look, helping him writing is this one dude, Eric Carrasco, who worked on Supergirl. Tim Sheridan, who wrote Reign of the Superman, the animated movie. Dia Mishra, who's working on Magic the Gathering TV series. And, of course, Mark Bernardin, who is a super smart. He's worked on Castle Rock, Treadstone. Great guy on the show and a very good writer.
I'm hoping, listen, all of the stars are aligning for it to be good.
Yeah.
But I've been disappointed too many times to know, like, even when they did the Thundercats reboot.
That was a great reboot.
No one liked it because they went and they actually made an intelligent Thundercat show. I mean, that was actually really good. No one fucking tuned into it.
I think like the Voltron did good on Netflix, and that is very Japanese anime influence. I think it's going to be a lot
silly.
like that.
It had silliness in it, but like it was. Listen, Voltron is probably the best handled thing. If you stick around for that last couple of seasons, it's fucking badass.
Voltron is at the end?
Yes.
Oh, man, I got to finish it.
It's so epic. I was like, wow. I was white knuckling it through some of these episodes because it was like so crazy.
4 or 5 seasons. But I love the Thundercats reboot, the He-Man reboot. They're making the movies coming out 2021 with Noah Centineo. That's all we know. So it may have, and then there's like documentaries and the conventions.
I don't know, I'm skeptical.
The fandom is still there, man. It's amazing how people still love their He-Man. But here's the thing: that's the original source material.
But you don't understand if you ever seen the He-Man fandom.
No, I haven't.
It's not like okay. So if the He-Man fandom, what do you think of He-Man fandom? Is it like Conan the Barbarian or like Frank Frazetta fandom? No, like that is into like fucking like no. It's more of a lighthearted, more flamboyant, more like, I guess fairy tale-y and kind of like homegrown. It's not really that like the edgy.
So you think he's going to be catering to that?
From my perspective,
yeah.
I've never met one person other than you two in my life that is a He-Man fan. So if there is He-Man fans, they're fucking hiding it, all right? Because I can find more Godzilla fans than I can find He-Man fans.
It's strictly the nostalgia. Like the show to me is I more remember the stories I made up in my head with the action figures than the actual TV show.
The action figures promised more.
Yeah.
More adventure than the show ever did.
Absolutely. So. Good for them. I remember they mentioned
it's a failure in my eyes, that show. So I don't really want to fucking see a continuation of that show.
They mentioned I
want to see those figures realized, what those figures meant to be.
Yeah.
Realized. Not like fucking a goofy ass, like it was just very I don't know, wimpy.
I mean, I believe they're still going to have Orko and Cringer and Battlecat, and he's going to have...
When you see Skeletor...
Oh, he is just ridiculous in the original show.
And then you see him on the show, he's a fucking joke.
He's like...
Yeah,
he's just got the stupidest high-pitched voice.
Megatron was fucking threatening.
Yeah.
Megatron was fucking scary. All right?
He's a
this
handgun.
Motherfucker, not scary at all. He's got a skull for a face.
Speaking of skull face... That reminds me of a character in a movie we are about to review. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break right here, play some promos, and we will be back to visit the magical world of Willow right after this.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
We'll get you back to your regularly scheduled podcast in just a minute. But we wanted to introduce ourselves. I'm Jason.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Blake on this highly produced advertisement.
That's right. It's the History of Bad Ideas, a.k.a. Hobie. You can find us on Twitter at Bad Ideas Podcast and on Facebook at the History of Bad Ideas. But if you like a podcast roundtable with 3 to 5 guests, usually every week, depending on sick leave, talking about all things geek, including movies, TV.
I ain't getting paid for this shit.
Blake bitching about something and ranting, and comic books and anything else that we can think of. We have a top 5 list every week, along with a box office news, and somehow we have listeners, so they send us some feedback we answer every week. You can find us on iTunes,
Stitcher,
Facebook,
Spotify,
and any good podcast app, because if you can't find us on that podcast app, it's not a good podcast app.
Damn straight. Roger says goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Henno. We're 3 friends that talk about mental health, wellness, and our lives.
Through articles and tips, we share what has worked for us on our paths overcoming depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, alcoholism, and addiction.
Come join us on our journey. You can find us anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just search for The Crazy Life. Remember, wiggle your toes and just keep breathing.
Doc and Nerd.
Listener, if you enjoy the show, if you've been enjoying the show, there is more show to be had. That's right. Jock and Nerd. Join our fan club. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon. And you can join our exclusive Patreon community. You get access to an exclusive podcast feed that has all the shows come out early. This show, the spin-off show, bonus content, post shows, movie reviews, instant reactions, lots of fun stuff.
Imrad Modigan.
If you pay us $10 a month, if you support the show, pledge $10 a month or more, you get to pick a movie and force us to watch it and review it. And we've had some great ones in the past that have backfired on me.
Ooh. The last 2 have not been great ones.
Not been great ones. Power Rangers, the movie, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And now we are going to flip the script and make Anthony suffer a little bit.
I was dreading watching this.
Real quick, Ray O'Neill, Ralph Bravo have not sent their movie picks in yet. Please send what movie you want for your patronage.
Do we still have other movies?
We have about 5 left.
Okay.
Oh,
so
shit.
7 with those 2. We still have, like, there's 4 and then, like, a bonus one. But, yeah, we're getting through them, though. We are getting through them. And what we're going to do right now is our full spoiler review of Willow from 1988. Here is your spoiler alert.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
This movie sponsored by, picked by, dedicated to listener, Patreon supporter Jose Ibarra.
Yeah, he changed his pick. It was going to be the Joss Whedon movie, right?
And it was going to be Serenity. I will tell you why he changed it. Jose has been a patron for 15 months, and he's currently at $20 a month.
Oh, shit.
On our Patreon. Thank you so much, Jose.
Thank you.
Jose, that gets you a shot to come on the show, or you can hang out with us like in a Google Hangout or a chat or whatever you want to do.
Or I'll come to your house.
We come to your house. I'll bring some cake, some Sara Lee crumble
live, Jose?
cake. Are you home tomorrow at 3?
Want to go out with me to the club?
Somebody have any Sanka?
What a bonus.
Oh, for $20 a month, you could go clubbing with the Jock. Mute here on the Patreon. So Jose Ibarra posted, here's why he chose this movie. I forget what we were talking about, but he said, finally, this is from February of this year.
I said that Warwick Davis's most known role was in Leprechaun.
He says, finally getting a chance to listen to this week's episode. I'm not easily offended, but Anthony made a very controversial statement.
Oh, shit.
Warwick Davis is most known for his role as Leprechaun. How dare you not give Willow its due? Imran, why aren't you checking your boy? Just for that, I'm making you guys review it for my Patreon pick. All right?
I remember exactly that day because I was in horror when he said that.
You were like, oh.
I responded with, the fuck is a Willow?
What the fuck? And Anthony found out. This movie, released in 1988, currently sitting 50% on the tomato meter. 5.7 out of 10. Box office wise, it was made what is this? 50
short-circuiting over there?
What happened? Blah. All I have is the domestic numbers, 57 million.
No one wanted to see this internationally. Come on.
It doesn't even have international numbers. I don't have the production budget. I think it was probably made for like 30 million, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it was 30 million.
Right? The movie directed by a young Ron Howard, who this is the time of his career. He had done Opie on the Andy Griffith Show. He was already Richie Cunningham on Happy Days.
Right.
He was in American Graffiti.
Directed by George Lucas, who produced this movie.
Who produced, and the story by, so this is Ron Howard's, I think, one of his first movies on his way to becoming an amazing director.
Cocoon. He did Splash already.
He did Cocoon and Splash right before this.
Yeah.
Story by George Lucas and Bob Dolman wrote the screenplay. This movie stars Val Kilmer as who, Anthony?
Matt Monaghan.
That's right, Matt Monaghan. This is
Matt Monaghan's weight.
This is a very young Val Kilmer. This is his fourth movie. He had done Top Gun.
Before or after Top Gun?
Well, he had just done Top Gun in 86. Okay. So he's Top Secret, Real Genius, Top Gun, and then Willow.
Yeah,
so
this is his first action movie.
This is his first action fantasy adventure movie, and also starring Joanne Whaley as Sorsha, and of course Warwick Davis as the titular character, Willow Ufgood. This is
now Warwick Davis was Wicket from Return of the Jedi.
Yes, and this is the first time Warwick is in a movie not wearing a costume. The first time he gets to be himself. Jean Marsh as Queen Bavmorda. Patricia Hayes, these names are great. Finn Raziel, Billy Barty as High Aldwin, Pat Roach as General Kyle. You got characters named Migosh and Vonkar, and Kevin Pollak as a tiny little brownie who is actually very funny. Kevin Pollak and Rick Overton. The plot of this movie, Anthony. First of all, Anthony, let's start with you. You had never seen this movie, correct? Okay.
Never,
so
ever.
This is
didn't even know what the fuck a Willow was.
Did not know what the fuck a Willow is. This is a classic fantasy movie for a certain age group. It's kind of.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. 100%.
Okay.
I want to know what you thought. What you didn't know anything about Willow. Let's just start with your opening thoughts. What did you think once you sat through this journey, this adventure?
I was dreading watching this fucking movie. Turned it on. It's not all that bad. Like, I wouldn't say I enjoyed myself, but I wasn't pissed off watching the entire movie.
Yeah.
If there's anything, first off, it being associated with Lucas, I didn't know that.
Effects done by Industrial Light and Magic.
Yeah, the effects for its time are good.
Mm-hmm.
There are some funny moments. Overall, though, for me, it's the way I was trying to think about this movie is there's all these different aspects, like this new world, these littler people, there's this drag, these crack castle with an evil queen, there's these warriors, and there's all these different elements of a fantasy movie, and I couldn't help but think to myself when I ended it, I went, man, there's all these elements of a fantasy movie, there's a stop motion animation, there's the ILM graphics, that all they could produce was this exceedingly average fucking movie. I mean, you watch that movie, and I think I'll probably forget that I saw Willow in a week. The only thing that stands out for me is the fact that they made the lead a little person. That was it.
Yeah, and that was Lucas wanted to do that. So
all the elements are there for this epic fantasy, and it's just exceedingly average.
Well, fantasy wasn't in at this point. People were not watching fantasy movies, but they threw all of the money that they had at these fantasy movies. They may use the top-notch special effects for their time. Now, I mean, in a post Game of Thrones world, in a post, Lord of the Rings, this seems like cookie cutter, very average shit, like Anthony was saying. But for its time, it was all of these movies were kind of coming out. There was Dragon Slayer that came out, with Vithuramax, the dragon. That was a pretty cool dragon, but I mean, all of these movies were really low budget compared to what we see now.
Yeah, because he had George Lucas and ILM and everything he learned from Star Wars coming off of it. So for the listener that maybe hasn't seen this movie, it's kind of a straightforward plot. It's your typical little people called Nelwins find a baby floating in the river.
Well, that's not typical. What are you talking about?
Well, it's a mashup of
the plot is straight here. Let me try it.
Yeah.
Because I saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
The plot is there's basically a Jesus that is born.
Yeah, it's Moses
in the form
Jesus.
of a girl or Moses or Savior that is born that needs to be protected because there's this evil queen that is ruling everything with an iron fist, and this he needs to be protected, and it happens to be protected by little people. That's the plot.
Nelwins.
It's not typical. There's no plot where little people find a baby.
It's typical in the sense of it is your standard Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Sure.
You know, unwitting, unlikely hero goes on a journey. It's pretty much Moses mashed with Snow White mashed with Star Wars. It is exactly Star Wars.
This was an idea for Star Wars.
So Lucas wrote this in 1972. He had this idea before Star Wars, and by the end, when they were filming Jedi, he talked to Warwick Davis about it, and Ron Howard wanted to direct a fantasy movie. So I watched this when I was a kid, right? And watching it again, I didn't remember a lot of the end, but I do remember totally enjoying this movie. And I gotta say, I think it kind of sort of still holds up.
In the same way that regular Star Wars holds up.
Yes, it holds up
feels
just as well as
like Star Wars.
Yes, it does. I mean, because he's on a journey. He meets a swashbuckling hero that doesn't follow the rules and is a bad guy, and and then they have two little tiny companions that are like R2 and C-3PO, and they got to save the baby and storm the castle and kill the queen. And I mean, it's not typical, but it is kind of it's a straightforward, very charming, wholesome fantasy movie. If you are between the ages of maybe like 8 to 13, I feel like that's where it hits you.
It's wholesome, but then towards the end of the second to third act, people are getting stabbed and the brain matter or whatever the hell that thing's exploding.
That scene with the trolls where he hits the troll with the magic wand spell, and then it kind of his skin peels off, and then he kicks it, and then the two-headed dragon. That was fucking crazy. I was like, this is really graphic and gross.
So do you know that two-headed dragon is named after Siskel and Ebert?
Yes, it's Ebosys. And then the other guy, General Kyle, is named after another critic. Kyle, her last. So he was going after these critics, but that two-headed dragon, I love the combination use of technology, matte paintings, green screenings, miniatures. That two-headed dragon was like the Rancor.
It was a weird looking dragon. It wasn't a typical.
It wasn't a dragon. It was like this mutated, gooey, gobby thing, but a lot like the Rancor effects in Return of the Jedi. One thing this movie is noted for is developing and inventing the digital morphing technology that you see at the end when he's trying to change Raziel from the different animals into a human. You know that part, Anthony, at the end where she turns into like a goat and then a tiger and an ostrich?
Yeah.
That was the first instance they had to invent digital morphing, never been done before.
I don't discount the special effects for its time.
That special effects went on. We saw it in Terminator 2.
I just never thought I'd see a movie where in the third act you had two old women fighting each other.
That's true.
That's kind of badass.
Yeah.
Everything they did in this movie it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like you have like midgets, whatever you want to call them, little people.
You have little people, but then you have littler
tinier people, putting them into perspective.
That are actually full size people, just shrunken down.
Just shrunken. But what a great way.
It's bonkers. I mean, look, the thing about this movie is, Val Kilmer effectively saves this movie. All right.
Yes,
he is the Han Solo of this movie. Right?
Absolutely.
But they don't get to him for like almost an hour into the movie.
Not until halfway in the movie. They got to set up all the shit.
And then as Anthony was pointing out, after he comes into the movie, it's just the guy saying his name all the time.
It's like Mad Monaghan.
Yeah. So it's like that writing is
the writing there. The thing is like the writing there is it doesn't make sense because that's where then that doesn't fall apart. The movie's fine.
Yeah.
But there was that one part where Willow's a fool, right? He gives the baby to Mad Mardigan. So you're immediately like, Willow, you're an idiot. Why would you give it to Mad Mardigan?
Exactly.
But then the next scene cuts to the littler people.
They have the baby.
Yeah. So there's no explanation of how the littler people took the baby.
They just
taking a piss.
Yeah,
he was taking a piss. He put the baby down.
With the bird.
Is that what they said?
Yes, and then
it was such a throwaway thing.
It was.
I couldn't figure out how the littler people took it from a full-grown human.
They just swoop down on a fucking hawk and get the fucking baby.
So the hawk carried the baby?
Yes, the hawk was carrying the baby.
Oh my God, that's so ridiculous.
So
crazy.
It's pretty crazy, yeah. It's an 80s movie. It's not the standards of like suspension of disbelief is completely different.
Back then, you could get away with this.
Yeah.
I mean, and that plus the I knew for sure the 80s movie is just the girl falls in love with him because Val Kilmer just decides to throw himself at her.
You know what's funny about that? Sorsha,
she's a great looking girl, though.
She's very attractive. Sorsha.
They got married,
They got married that year, 1988. They were married till 1996.
She was in Daredevil, season 3.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
Oh, she was the mom? She played
was the mom,
Maggie?
yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
I looked that up after because I was like, wow, this girl's really gorgeous.
She's very pretty in the movie, and I love what I mean. I appreciate like there's a lot of Indiana Jones in this, also like the whole cart scene.
The cart scene for sure,
totally Indiana Jones style, and the action it's not bad. It's competently directed. Ron Howard, you see him doing a good job with it.
Everything is just competent for me.
It is, and like a lot of this movie, nothing's happening, and so. But I just watching these things again is always fun, and I was surprised at how this one kind of holds up. I love the Skeletor mask that Kyle has.
Why?
I don't
Why
know
is he wearing it?
because I don't know why not
because it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some other great things. The James Horner music is fantastic. Willow's theme, the theme and the action songs, it gets you pumped. Like I thought the music was great. And I was surprised to find out, those boar dog creatures that were running after him.
I was wondering how they did that.
Dude, actual Rottweilers in masks.
Wow.
Yes.
That's what I figured is they dressed up dogs.
I was like, that's a dog. That's a dog
it looks
running.
Great, though.
It looks really good.
And they had animatronic masks for that.
It is disturbing seeing that thing run around like that.
It's scary. It's slightly frightening because this thing is just this killing machine. But I was like, that's a dog. That is not an effect. It's not a prop. It's a fucking dog. I also love the location shots. They shot a lot of this in New Zealand. Beautiful vistas. And just the special effects kind of hold up.
I was just surprised. Maybe this is offensive, but I was just surprised they were able to gather that many little people in a movie. A whole village.
But that village is awesome.
It's great. No, it's great. I'm just saying, I was like, wow. They went all out. the people making this, Lucas probably financing, they were like, we're going balls to the wall with this.
Well,
thing.
he had the connections from Star Wars and the Ewoks.
Absolutely,
just as many Ewoks. Those were all, and Kenny Baker playing R2. So, and I think for little people to see themselves on screen like this was probably a huge thing. I think Lucas was smart making him the hero. The other thing is, what was I going to say? I forgot.
Mad Monaghan.
The fucking baby. They show the baby a little bit too much. It's adorable, but do we really need the fucking baby's reaction to everything?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't know what's going on.
I was fine with that.
That baby never acted again, by the way. That was it. Played by twins, never acted again. I love the kids when they're like, Dada, you going to go?
Oh, the kids were adorable.
The kids are so
The kids
cute.
were great. No, I mean, there's a lot of good things I like. It's just not one of those movies for me that, like, it didn't resonate enough where, I think it didn't resonate enough for a lot of culture where it's not something that's going to be remembered as, like, forever. It's something like, oh, yeah, that was a cool part of my childhood, but then you don't, like, take it with you forever.
It's definitely, like, is it John Borman's Excalibur? No. Like, that movie is the movie that ingrained itself in me. Like, I could watch that 1,000 times. From that, and that I think that's like an 80s a fantasy movie, I believe. But
I mean, they were trying to do another Star Wars, and it just didn't resonate.
And what's the was it the one with Andre Giant?
Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's kind of like that feel too.
Yeah. And the Princess Bride is way better movie because it is not entirely for kids. It's it's more satire and comedy.
It was
very
an earnest
clever
fantasy film for young kids.
Absolutely. I mean, I would show this to a kid 8 to 12. Nowadays because it is. Yeah, it's a charming. I think they got to know about the Willow.
There's no boobs in it, right?
There's no boobs. There's no swearing.
There's some violence in there.
Yeah, there is. But
there is violence, but we saw that violence.
He's stabbing the fuck out of people.
When we were kids, we saw all the shit. We came off fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Exactly.
There's no big deal.
I don't know. I mean, as a film, nostalgically, I did enjoy watching it. I was actually surprised at how good looking it is.
Right.
Of a
Me
film.
too. Me too.
I was surprised at how they did create this kind of believable little person, village, and some of the sets looked pretty legit. Some of them didn't.
Yeah.
They were some of them were better than others. Some of the effects with the brownies was a little bit sketchy here and there.
But then
the brownies, the little people.
The little tiny people. You could
I think
see,
it was the best that they could do at that time.
At the time, the compositing, and then it would cut to like a live shot with giant things.
Look, they're making a movie with a guy who's not your typical leading man. All right, they got Val Kilmer in the movie, who kind of saves the movie, but he only comes in halfway through. I don't know. It's a very risky movie.
But it went on actually to spawn a bunch of board games, books, early video games. Like there was a Willow video game. That everyone loved. It was kind of popular.
What did they call the little people? Were called what? Pecks?
The Nelwins. Well, Peck was derogatory.
Okay, so they're Nelwins, and then humans were the Daikinis.
The Daikini was the human race, and the baby was Daikini.
Well, I think they're all human. It's just they're not human. It's instead of saying there's no human. It's Daikini and Elwin.
But you got trolls. You got fucking crazy creatures.
Yeah, and what are those creatures in the troll? The trolls are the black.
They're trolls.
Okay.
The other thing I think going against this movie is the names just are not as good as like Star Wars names. Like they don't roll off the tongue. They don't stick as outside of Mad Mardigan and Willow. You have Burgle Cut. Remember Burgle Cut? He was the fat leader of the little people.
He was like the asshole guy.
He was the asshole guy to Willow the whole time. Yeah. And then like there's Meegosh was his buddy.
I don't think it's the names or whatever.
Bavmorda.
The thing for me that doesn't resonate enough is the fact that the villain, who's Morta, there's not she's evil. But you really don't get a sense for her character or why she's really evil.
They didn't develop characters like that back
she's
then.
The Snow White evil queen.
But if you look back at Star Wars, and granted it had 3 films, you got to know Vader and his motivations and all that shit. And there was a sense of menace even in the first film with Vader.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas Morta, I don't feel like there was ever that sense of menace. It was more like, this is like the evil cackling witch.
Yeah, boilerplate.
I do love the 80s darkness in these kids' movies, similar to Howard the Duck, which is a kids' movie, and it's so fucking dark. This movie starts with like baby assassinations, baby killing. She's rounding up the babies to kill them, and it's scary.
And that the caregiver just getting eaten alive.
Oh, yeah. Right,
that's what I'm saying. Like this isn't it's a movie that has trouble with figuring out what tone it wants to go with.
It is tonally jarring. I will give you that.
It was fine for kids in the 1980s because no one gave a shit.
At the time, Anthony, this is what it was for kids. This is what they would put out for kids, and we loved it.
It's a different time. I wasn't alive. Or I was alive, but not comprehending anything.
Also, they had that last scene where everyone turns into pigs. They had like 200 pigs. That
was
great.
Dude. When they're morphing into the pigs, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing makeup.
You see Val Kilmer turn into a pig man.
The hooves and the nose and like the face. I'm like, what is this?
The jaws are coming out.
Yeah, that was good.
But then you have witch against witch at the end, and of course, everything works out fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of like good things in the movie, and then just comes out to produce this average film.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, everything is kind of like reminiscent of something else. Like we talked about Indiana Jones, the music of this,
it's
blah, blah,
highly
blah.
derivative.
It's very kind of derivative in that sense. There is a lot of Willow saying Mad Mardigan. In fact, it could be a drinking game if every single time Willow says Mad Mardigan, you drink. It's like it's written in kind of like a weird 80s type of style, and his grating voice saying his name over and over again just etches into your skull. And in fact, when I signed on to do this podcast today, Anthony's screen name he wrote is Imrad Mardigan.
Imrad Mardigan.
So it burned itself into Anthony's
Absolutely.
head. So it was like, it's one of those things that you can't walk out of that movie without thinking like, man, he said that a lot.
He said that a lot. It's the best character. A couple of other notes. John Cusack almost had the role over Val Kilmer.
Oh, geez.
I don't know if that would have worked. I think Val Kilmer did a great job of this. Pioneer special effects. We talked about the marriage. They got married.
They continued the story in the Shadow books.
Oh.
So even though the movies never continued, there is these Shadow books with Shadow in the title. And they continue the story of Alora Donna as she becomes a warrior and shit. Dragon Slayer.
Speaking of continuing the story, Ron Howard has confirmed that he has been talking about the possibility of a Willow Disney Plus TV series.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, bring him back. You could do the next
Who would have
generation.
thought that Jose Ibarra picking Willow 7 months ago or whatever it was,
Right? Ties
that
it
this
all
would
together.
be relevant now and tie this in.
Willow might be back, and he's still. I mean, it's beloved, much in the same way like we talked about He-Man. Like when you were a kid, this was the best fucking thing ever.
A Willow TV show? Wow.
No,
I don't
just
think
the
Willow
movie.
was the best thing ever. It was just something that was from my past that I was happy to go back to and give it a second look with different eyes now.
It holds up better than
remember
He-Man.
what I said about He-Man anecdotally?
Yes.
There's even less people that know what Willow is in my friend group.
Willow, you guys are too young. Willow
Well, I'm
holds
just
up.
saying, like you compared it to He-Man.
Yep,
He-Man
yep,
has more
yep.
cachet than Willow.
Then Willow is not a thing. It will be a thing soon. Once they bring it back to Disney Plus.
I liked Warwick Davis. I mean, maybe a lot of it's just because he's little, but
He's
I liked
very
it.
young.
He's
He was
very
like
charming. He's only like 17 or 18.
Yeah, in the movie. First time without.
He's got a very earnest way about him in the film.
Yeah, you kind of like him in the movie.
Yeah. You
And he's trying to be a sorcerer, and it's clearly not a sorcerer.
Now,
and then he uses the magic at the end.
What about his wife, though?
What about her?
I don't know what you're getting at. You say she's hot?
I was just saying.
I don't know where you're getting at.
Willow's
Listen,
wife
his wife took the baby in. She,
Yeah,
she
she's-
started the whole thing. He wasn't going to take the baby.
that
He's
is
like,
that is a beautiful person, right?
it is. Kaya. What was her name? Kaya. Kaya
Yeah,
Upgood.
that's right.
Kaya Upgood.
That is a elf. What is that? It's a Elwyn beauty.
A Nelwyn beauty.
Nelwyn
And he said
beauty.
Elora Danan a lot. Elora. I gotta save Elora.
Lord
Where's
Donna.
Elora? That's really about it. There's not much more we can say about
There's
the
not
movie.
a ton. I mean, it's solid.
I love that, Jose, you picked this and making me go back and live part of my childhood. Last episode, I mentioned Val Kilmer, currently what he's been going through. So he had been making movies, if you look at his IMDb, consistently, and then there's a gap between 2014 and 2017. He's back making movies. I found out in a profile for The Hollywood Reporter, it was revealed that Val Kilmer had a 2-year battle with throat cancer.
Yikes.
And a procedure on his trachea had reduced his voice to a rasp.
Oh, no.
And he was short of breath. Now, I think he's doing better.
Well, he's in Top Gun.
He's in the Top Gun again. He's in the new Top Gun, reviving his character. And he's doing a bunch of movies now. He's got a couple other things. But for a while, and he's in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which is awesome.
How old is Val Kilmer? Like 60
Almost
years old?
60.
He is almost 60. When was he born?
59 years old.
1959. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So, but Kilmer goes on to have, first of all, can we just talk? If you've never seen Top Secret, it is a movie made by the creators of Airplane. It's hilarious.
I'm not going to admit to seeing anything anymore because I don't want the listeners to fucking make me watch things.
Oh,
that I
we'll
don't
get
wanna
into
watch.
something that we're going to force you to watch that the nation is pushing. But Val Kilmer, he goes on to be Jim Morrison in the fucking Doors. Amazing performance. He's in Thunderheart, True Romance, Tombstone, of course, Doc Holliday, and then Batman.
The
Heat.
Salton Sea, another underrated Val Kilmer movie.
Yeah. He's
Matt Monaghan.
Matt Monaghan. So I don't know. What do you want to do? Would you rate this movie? What would you rate?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'll give it a solid, it was like a 7 out of 10 for me. It's still, I was really surprised that it kind of held up in a charming, fun, wholesome way. So,
I'm going to go with 6.5.
Okay.
Wow. I said it was an average movie. I can't back down, so I'm going to go right in the middle. 5.
5, just like the Rotten Tomatoes. Which,
Yeah, I think
is
a lot of
pretty
it's
accurate.
nostalgia for me.
Yeah, of course. You saw it. It's a different time.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like that there is some kind of magic in that movie. I really felt that there was some magic in there.
That's because he's a sorcerer.
Well, I mean,
it was
I'm
movie
talking
magic,
about
Rugs.
the other kind of the intangibles. The
There
intangible
was a
things.
little bit. It could have been cultivated to be
It was
more.
it wasn't to
but
the
it-
level
It
that,
wasn't to its full
like
potential.
Indiana Jones
Right,
has, or
right.
something like that. But it had there was something to it. I think to me, it's like young Lucas, young Ron Howard.
Yep.
Like trying to make a go at this movie that's really like no one wants to watch this movie. It's a movie about little people.
I always appreciate the movies that people don't know that pushed computer technology and movie making processes forward, like this with the morphing. You wouldn't have the Michael Jackson black or white video Where their faces were morphing.
I don't know. It was just very unlikely film to be made, and I'm glad. It did win me over when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah.
So I think it had some kind of magic to it. So I want to acknowledge that.
You do see the inspiration, of Star Wars
and stuff. It is a flawed
stuff.
film by all means.
It's totally all over the place.
He could have not said Mad Mardigan about like 11 times, and it would have been a better film. But
It was ridiculous then. It was ridiculous now. I love Kevin Pollak as the brownie, where he's like, "Your mother's a lizard." Like he's throwing out these one-liners. Like,
the little people.
Yeah,
what are they called?
Brownies. They were brownies.
I was laughing at
right.
And the voice they give him is. It's like, oh my gosh, this is great.
They just yell at each other.
There's a lot of enjoyable moments. I will agree. I wasn't mad watching it.
Again, as a kid, when you watched this, you had a great time. You had a great time.
I'm sure the experience is way different as an adult versus as a kid.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Looking back on it, I'm like, whoa. But I still think that this film has got a little bit of magic to it. Is it a perfect film? No. Is it like it could have been written better? Absolutely. But I think that there is something to it. There's something there that's kind of, it does need a better pacing.
Yeah, it kind of drags. Sometimes it drags
in the beginning really bad.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't need to be.
And the
2
end
hours.
the end just rushes to a halt.
Yeah.
So they needed to kind of figure out the pacing a little better, but I think, nonetheless, it's still kind of charming.
Thank you, Jose Ibarra, for your support for this movie pick. And now you have schooled Anthony on the Warwick Davis.
I know what the fuck a Willow is.
We now know. He now knows what the fuck a Willow is. All right, let's get to some news from the nation. It's time for news from the nation. It's time for news from the nation. And the toilet's flushed. All right, getting some comments from the Facebook group, Jock and Nerd Nation. RE episode 288, our Mortal Kombat Annihilation review, which was another Patreon pick. Lisa Morrison commented, "I'm pretty pissed at this week's show. Halfway through your review, Steve turned to me and said, I think I need to see this now. If I end up having to watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I'm canceling my Patreon support." Oh, shit. And then this was followed by screenshots of Steve Morrison downloading the movie, and then screenshots of the opening of the movie, and Lisa Morrison going, "This is horrible." So
it's really bad.
It's really bad.
We told you.
Watch Willow after that.
Yeah, don't blame us. Your husband's being a jerk.
But then, so...
Yeah, he made you do it. He made you watch
Don't
it.
cancel your Patreon support.
Yeah.
Joe Henry
Punish him.
commented, I actually watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation in the theater. I liked the first movie. I won't ever watch it again. This review brought back some memories. Glad we could do that. I have an email from someone about our last episode. Listener Bernardo Artega writes, and he says, "Hi, guys. I truly enjoyed last episode about the boys, but please mind spoilers, or at least warn about them before blurting them out, even more if it's from a different movie/TV show than the one you're reviewing. I live in Mexico, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood premieres this weekend, so I haven't had the chance to see it yet, and you just casually gave away 2 spoilers in your review. I won't go as far as to say you ruined the movie for me. That'll be a huge exaggeration, but it'd have been nice to know a spoiler for another movie was going to be said, and I could have skipped it. Keep up the good work. I love the show nonetheless. Greetings from Guadalajara, Mexico." Oh, shit. Nerd. First of all, Bernardo, thanks for listening from Mexico. That's amazing. Guadalajara. Second of all,
I guess we did throw in casual.
Super sorry. No, it's irresponsible. They were very mild spoilers, but
It was probably me.
It was both of us. You said something about Sharon Tate. I compared a scene to a scene from the movie.
Spoiler
All
alert.
I needed to do was hit that button. With great podcasting comes great responsibility.
It's tough. We're doing this, off the cuff.
A lot of thoughts
Sometimes
fly
shit
through my head.
happens.
Sometimes I miss it. Generally, I would never do that, Bernardo. Just
Gracias,
understand
muchacho.
that. Muchas gracias for calling us out. He's cool. He's like, no, I'm going to listen to your review. I love the show. I love you guys. So But look, point taken. We're going to try to be a little bit more careful. That's all.
Yeah.
But sometimes shit happens.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Wild spoilers. Good time. Trenton Smith writing in says, I'm listening to this week's podcast. You guys briefly talked about bands and artists doing pop songs to gain financial independence. And I just find it ironic that you guys didn't mention Chance the Rapper, arguably one of the biggest independent artists out right now and from Chicago.
Well, you mentioned him. Trenton.
Well, no, Trenton mentioned him for us. Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, you want to talk about independent artists, Chance doing it the right way. Putting out mixtapes, putting on his own music. The first guy to win Grammys, releasing his music streaming only. Oh shit, that's amazing. That's bucking the model.
I will say, we talked about it prior to the show. There's the prevalence of a lot of shitty rappers.
Yes,
but it is It's easier now than ever. There's artists that get discovered off of just SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, absolutely.
We were talking about a shitty artist.
Yeah.
Lil Pump, he is discovered off of SoundCloud.
Because you can put out your mixtapes there. You can put out all your remixes, and someone will find you. So we're talking about rappers real quick. This week I finally got a chance to turn Anthony on to Lil Dicky. Talking nerd. One of my favorite.
I was very high watching him.
And we watched the video Too High, and you could relate. But if you haven't checked out Lil Dicky, check out all professional rappers. Save that money.
I'm 4 years late. Lil Dicky.
Yes.
Yeah, I turned you on to Lil Dicky.
Anthony, yes, Rug Boy turned me on, and I fucking love Lil Dicky. And then in return, Anthony, I love when we do this. You turn me on to a new rapper that's actually really good, and it's a guy I heard once, but I got into him more. Joyner Lucas was on a track on Eminem's Kamikaze album, but listener, just check out the video for a song called I'm Not Racist. Fucking powerful, really well written, amazing
That's
stuff.
Years ago, too.
Yes, it's very old. But, trying to find good artists and good rappers in the last 5 to 10 years is hard, and Joyner is definitely one of them.
He's got a song out, it was a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where the whole premise of the song is they challenge him to spit out 8 bars and then say the same 8 bars backwards, and it makes sense.
And he doesn't say the words backwards. He says like topic by topic backwards, like off the cuff. Dude, I'm Not Racist. The premise for this is the first verse is him from the perspective of a white, angry white MAGA guy, with a Trump hat, and he's saying everything you hear in this conversation, and then the response is him back to the white guy, and it's so fucking good.
That's actually not him, Imran.
What? No, I mean,
black guy in the video.
That's not him.
That's not him.
Really?
No, that's another black guy mouthing his words.
That's even more interesting. I thought that guy looked like an actor from somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I'm wrong. I thought that was him. So he's not even in this video.
He's not in the video.
But the video is great because you have this big fat white guy with a beard with a Make America Great hat, and this guy gets to mouth the N-word a lot and emphatically. I was like, what a fucking role for this white guy to get. But it is a really powerfully done piece, and I was super impressed. I was like, holy shit, this is great. I played it several times over and over again. I can't believe that wasn't him. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
They both did good jobs lip syncing, though.
They did good jobs.
There you go. New music. Finally, Joey Austin. Here we go. We're pressuring Tony. Sorry to put you on blast, my buddy, but Anthony, have you watched True Romance yet? Yes. My fat ass is doing CrossFit. The least you could do is watch that movie. LOL. Seriously, one of my top 5 movies. Joey, congratulations on the CrossFit, man. I hope you're enjoying it. That's awesome. And thank you for pushing Anthony to watch True Romance. One of the best movies ever, Anthony.
Well, it's a silly movie, but yeah, you should definitely watch it.
I'll have to watch it one day.
It's a fucking bonkers ass silly movie, but I fucking love it.
I would love to review this and discuss this movie on the show because it, like I said, it's one of my favorite movies, and it's a fucking roller coaster ride from beginning to end. One of the best Quentin Tarantino scripts he ever wrote, written by Quentin Tarantino, directed by Tony Scott, starring everyone, Anthony.
I see this. I'm looking
James
at the Wikipedia.
Gandolfini, Dennis Hopper, Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, what's his name?
Kilmer.
Val Kilmer is in there.
Gary Oldman, Brad
Commissioner
Pitt,
Gordon,
Christopher Walken.
Yep. It is an amazing cast. Bronson Pinchot, Balky from Perfect Strangers.
Music by Hans Zimmer. Wow.
Yes, Hans Zimmer do it, and the music is great. The directing is great. It's a fucking great movie. So, You let me know when you watch it. When you want to watch it, we will review.
You know how this works. You have to set a time where you're like, hey, we're reviewing this, and I'll watch it.
All right, the next week there ain't shit to talk about.
No, well, we got people paying us before
we'll get through those. Unless somebody wants to sign up for $10 a month.
The people that are donating that we need to get to first.
We will get to them, but sign up. Force Anthony to watch True Romance. And then Anthony, shout out Voice from the Underground appearance.
I was on Voice from the Underground. Yeah, it was a last minute thing. They had a guest drop out, and they hit me up on the bat phone, and I was there to save the show. Or maybe not.
Even though this is what they think about you.
Let me tell you about Tony, all right? Tony ruins lives.
Even though that's from TJ.
Yeah, it was an interesting show. We kind of went off the rails real quick.
A lot of fun over there.
What happened to the FVFU? They got some drama. Didn't they get...
They got banned off Twitter.
They got banned on Twitter for getting into a thing with Dana Loesch about guns.
Yeah.
And then they got their Twitter account suspended, so they have a new one.
We get into it on the show.
Listen,
but it's pretty funny.
I gotta congratulate them. Good for them on actually getting noticed by someone in power and causing a big stir. Let's not forget Facebook and Twitter. This is not free speech, people. You could say whatever you want, but it's a business. They will shut you down if they don't like it.
Well, what did they say? I wish I knew what they said to get in trouble.
They were going back and forth with one of Dana Loesch's supporters, and Dana Loesch's supporter was taking things out of context. You'd have to look at it, but the gist is they made a kind of not a joke, but just being satirical. Well, if you think this way, then you should go ahead and basically kill yourself or something like that.
Which appeared to be a threat. So
yeah, it appeared to be some sort of threat or some sort of. But the context of the conversation was.
Well,
lost.
I got banned off Twitter for telling
the same thing.
The
it's
guy
similar to what happened to you.
Yep.
Yeah, the guy who designed the new Thundercats. They should take the Sword of Omens
and cut his head off.
So very similar to what happened to you.
So clearly Twitter draws the line at threats, but they don't really look at it. The context of the thing. Whether they're like, no, zero tolerance policy if you're threatening, even if you're threatening someone with a fake fictional fucking thing.
But if I tell you to kill yourself and you don't want to,
yeah.
You're not going to do it.
It's my right. I do what I do.
He just told me to kill myself, so I guess I'm threatened. No, it's like, suck your own dick. No, I don't want to. Okay.
I'm not that flexible.
Yeah.
I haven't removed a couple ribs like Marilyn Manson.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
It's just crazy.
Look, just remember, this is a company. You're posting things.
It's just ridiculous.
Free,
I learned my lesson. I'm not going to do that anymore, but I mean.
Well, not to get into a whole Twitter thing, but the I wouldn't even call it a privilege. The responsibility of monitoring speech across thousands of languages is impossible.
Yeah, it's got to be kind of hard.
The lines? I'm not envious of anyone that has to monitor speech.
Yeah. No, and I've heard someone from Twitter. I think they were on Reply All, or some podcast. They were talking about. Was it? Yeah, they came on there,
Twitter
right?
Debate, yeah.
They were talking about how they handle this stuff and how much stuff they have to go through, and they were like, "This is impossible. Like, how could you stop everything?"
Especially when you incorporate other languays, the slang, and the meanings behind phrases in other languages.
What's the worst thing you could probably say to somebody on Twitter and get away with it?
And get away with it?
And get away with it. I don't know.
You can call him a pedophile all day long, right?
I don't even know.
You accuse somebody of pedophilia,
but that's libel or slander, or the one that's not printed. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but
no, I see people.
You see people tweeting some horrendous shit, and nothing happens to them.
Like that. Nothing happens to them.
So I don't know. Where's the line? Anyways, that's the show. Ruggs, where can the listener find you?
On Twitter, trying to get banned again.
Trying to get
protecting Voice from the Underground from a certain death.
At Really Rug Boy. At least they'd let you come back.
Yeah, it took me a week to come back.
Just a week? I don't think they're getting theirs back. He made a new one. Check out the show notes for this episode, listener, jockandnerd.com/290. Links to everything we talk about, how to subscribe, how to support, how to get in touch, so you never miss a show. Share the link. Spread the geekery. That is your mission always. Thank you for listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
We'll peep you next time.
My balls was hot.
I love this movie.
It's funny. fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.